Hey there, baby. Smoker's Chuck. I've been hearing about hot and fast brisket. Everybody in competition, Harry Sue, all these other people, they all do hot and fast. I got a prime brisket here. I think if any meat will stand up to hot and fast, this one will. I trimmed it last night and I was merciless with it. I really took a lot of the fat off the point end. I left a quarter inch to a half inch fat cap on the flat. I'm not a fan of the flat. This one has an enormous point. The flat, not so big. Okay, folks, so here's the brisket. This is the meat side, and as you can see, the flat comes to about here, and all of this is point, and that continues down to about here on the other side. I'm not going to flip it over because I don't have my gloves on right now, but this is a prime piece of meat, so there's pretty good intramuscular fat in the point, in the flat. And as you can see, a little thin on this end, probably about 1.5 inches thick, but right about here it gets to be, a good 2 inches thick. So I'm not really worried too much about it drying up. Maybe this last little bit will, but like, who cares? We're gonna do hot and fast today, so I have my alarm set at 325 on the high and 297 on the low, and I figured that I'm gonna try to keep it under 325. So right now we're getting up to almost 300, and I've only had the fire going for about a half an hour, so that's pretty good. And I think what I'm gonna do is feed it a little bit bigger logs than I normally do. I probably won't split these up, although I did try my new toy today. I got a kindling cracker, and I got myself a dead blow. So it's a dead blow hammer. It's a little on the light side. It's only 2 pounds. I probably have to get a heavier one for the bigger pieces, but it worked okay. And I've got some fairly good sized pieces of wood here. As you can see by my hand, they're a little bit bigger. Normally I would have something that would be, half of this. And we're gonna keep the damper open a little bit more. Like right now I've got it wide open because I'm heating the stove up, the oven up, smoker up, and you can see I got nice clean smoke. But since we're rolling up on 300, and I certainly don't want to go over 325, I'm probably going to feed it another log, let the log go clean, and then tap those dampers down to about 2/3. Okay, folks, so I'm not up to temperature yet. I just wanted to show you. This is the thickness of the flat. So you got, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, but look at the size of this point, and look how beautifully marbled. Okay, folks, so right now we're running a little high because I just put a giant log in there. Giant for me. That big square one in the middle. Fire's still burning pretty clean from that Lone Star Grills basket. I'm keeping my vents about, I don't know, a little more than half, a little less than 2/3 open. And right now I'm up to 325, but I've been cruising around between 310 and 315 most of the day. So we're starting to get a little color, just the beginnings. I close it back up. Okay, folks, here's what we got going right now. Got real dark right here already. So we're gonna start spritzing. This is my normal vinegar and water spritz. I hope I got enough to get through this cook. And glad I got the fat cap down, because this hot and fast really does a number on the meat. So it's starting to pull in a little bit on the sides and bulge up in the middle. I'm gonna have to add some water because I'm really boiling that water, but I got a real hot fire going. I got several logs in there. As you can see, this one down here, that was that big square barkless log, and this was the more recent one that I put on that was real long and had some bark on the side of it, starting to smolder a little bit. So we're gonna jiggle her around. And this one was broken down to coals. I'm trying to keep a good coal bed in there, so that big square one is already down to coals. So I got functionally 2 logs, and I keep pulling back because look at my finger. That's a hot fire. Anyway, We should be back up to temperature pretty quick, but I am going to have to get in there and put a little more water in it. Okay folks, here's what we got going right now. And I have no idea if you can even see that. We're running about 320 degrees and our meat temperature is just about ready to hit 115. Now if you remember, when I put that in, we were at, I want to say about 40 degrees. And look at that bark, baby. Okay folks, we just hit 115. As you can see, my temperature dropped because I opened the door, gave it a spritz, showed you guys what was going on. And we're just a little over 2 hours and we're at 115. And we're headed up to about, I don't know, somewhere between, usually my briskets get tender around 203, 204, sometimes 205. The chuck takes a little longer. I've had to go 208, 209. And this is a real thick piece of meat, so I don't really know what it's going to do. Well, here's what hot and fast does for you folks. 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I'm already at 124, almost 125 degrees. And I'm wondering if this is even going to stall. And I know that the fat cap side is going to be pretty dark because I have that down towards the heat source, and I'm wondering if I need to flip it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it and get it to get a little color on the meat side, and then I'm going to wrap it. So I had this little piece of fat cap fall off, and I'll show you when I go inside what the spot looked like, but I just couldn't resist. It's just kind of like pork rinds, but it's beef rinds. So I'm gonna have a little, oh yeah, it's like bacon, yum. So my temperature's recovering, but threw another log on, got it burning clean, see no smoke. Put a little water in the pan and flipped my meat. So you can see that right here is where that piece of fat came from. So that probably was something that I had maybe sliced through when I was trimming it. But look at that beautiful bark. So what we're gonna do, give her a good spritz-a-rooney. And we're gonna leave her fat side up for a little while. At this rate, maybe 20 minutes. I don't know, half an hour. Get a little color on the meat side. I think I'm gonna wrap it, let it finish up. We're about 2.5 hours in. And when I reinserted the probe, it went into a different part of the meat, so the temperature dropped a little bit, so I'm only at 121 where I have the probe right now. But I'm thinking that's probably pretty close to the center. All right, folks, I'm letting this, got a couple 3 logs in there, 2 that are pretty close to being coals, and 1 little one I put in the middle, but I'm trying to recover my temps as fast as I can. And the smoke's a little dirty right now, mainly because of that middle log, kind of on the wet side. So I'm leaving the door open, and I'm letting the air get at it. Let that fire get nice and hot, let that top crossways facing log get clean. I also moved my temperature probe a little further back on the grate in the cook chamber, and I moved my piece of meat more towards the center. I feel like it was more towards the door. I couldn't move it back any further because the probe was in the way, the pit probe. So I moved that, moved the meat kind of more centered, and I feel like more heat is coming up on this side of the smoker than on this side. So I got the big end of the meat on that side, and we'll see what we get for temperatures. I'm still thinking I'm going to wrap it pretty soon. I don't know. We'll see. Typically you don't wrap until you get to where your bark is set, and my bark is set. It's only 125 degrees internal. As you can see, my temperatures are rebounding, so I don't know if you can see that or not. But my meat temperature is pretty much back where it was before I replaced that probe. One thing I did want to say that I haven't mentioned so far in this video is I more or less dry brine this. I salted the hell out of this meat and put a load of pepper on it. It's not as peppery as I had hoped it would be. I think next time I'm really gonna pepper it down where it's gonna just be black on the outside. My buddy Jimmy made a really good brisket a while back. He is the Masonic Services Association deputy for the veterans homes in our state. He does a barbecue every year for the residents and for the employees at the Menlo Veterans Home in New Jersey. And he made brisket, I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, but it was phenomenal. It was really good. He's been working his way through his process, and he started out getting really smoky flavored meat, and to the point where a lot of people were unhappy with it. But he made some beautiful brisket at that cookout that we had, and I'll tell you, the pepper was just really pungent and really good, and it really added something to the meat. And every time I think I'm putting too much pepper on, it ends up being not enough. So it was like that this time. I thought I had too much pepper, and I left the pepper on it with the dry brine and the salt overnight, and again, not too much. So at this point, I'm kind of, it is what it is. But for next time, I think I'm going to really hammer it. I want to show you real quick, folks. We're still recovering our temperature, but I'm in that 300 to 325 range. My meat's up to 127.5, and we're just a little over 2.5 hours in. At 225, I want to say that I wouldn't be reaching this point for maybe 5 hours. So if this meat turns out tender, hot and fast may be my new brisket method. I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want to think about it yet, but we got a long ways to go, but we're heading that direction. Okay, folks, we are about 3 hours and 20 minutes in, and as you can see, my temperatures are recovering again. I had to open the door to add water, and I had a minor mishap. We're gonna keep it real here. That's what we do at Smokers Chuggin'. And this water pan in this smoker is one of its shortcomings. It's really light gauge. It's a funny shape. It's hard to get in and out. It's hard to fill without burning yourself or whatever you're trying to fill it with. And I'm filling it with a hose today. And the hose won't shut off all the way, so I can never get the stream of water to not come out of the hose. So a little water always gets in, but I actually overfilled the pan and put about a ½ inch of water on that plate that is right here. There's a plate and there are vents all the way around. So what separates the fire box from the smoke box is this plate, and then you have these on 4 sides. You have these I don't know, redirection plates. So the smoke comes up underneath them and goes like this, and you have your radiant heat coming up from that plate. Sitting on top of that plate, you have your water pan, and above my water pan I have what used to be the fire grate, because it's like the thickest gauge metal that comes with this, and I use one of the cooking grates is the fire grate. You guys have all seen that. So what happened was, I'm filling it with the hose and the cold water, and I don't know if the water pan is warping or whatever, and it does that. And you know, when you add something cold to it, it shrinks up a little bit funny, and like one corner will end up lower than another corner, and water spilled over the edge, and I ended up with about half, 3/4 of an inch of water on that divider plate. I'm not sure how thick that metal is. I really hope I didn't break any of the welds there. I didn't see any water come down into my fire. Fire's still going good, but there was a ton of steam, and it was going glug, 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 boil, glug. And now I'm struggling to recover my temperature. So I don't think the steam hurt the bark any. Haven't touched it. I really wanted to get the door closed up as quick as I could, but here's what I want to look at. We are at 147.8 degrees in the meat, but we're a little over 3 hours in and I'm pushing 150 degrees in the meat. I've been putting a lot of water into it and it takes a long time to get the water in. So I think that one of the things I'm going to do to modify this over time, as soon as I can anyway, I'm gonna see if I can get somebody to make me a water pan that is made out of thicker steel and is actually mounted in there, and maybe has some way of filling it from the out. If you fill it from the outside with the door shut, you have no way of knowing what the level of the water is inside the pan. So I got to kind of think about this, and if I can come up with a good enough design, it probably would require it bringing it to a welder. At the very least, I may have him make a pan that is somewhat thicker metal, larger in volume, and fixed permanently to the inside of it, or at least rests inside the smoker in a different way than the one that's in there now. And I'd really like to get something that's heavier metal, the angles on the sides are a little different, and make it so that it's a little deeper and that the front of it comes out actually into the space where the door is. I'd like to have it go in there just so I could just close the door, and that way give me a little more breathing room as far as where I can put the nose of the nozzle of a hose. The nose of a hosel. The nozzle of a hose, or a filling can, or something. So I'm going to think about that, and I think that long term that's probably going to be one of the bigger mods that I'm going to have to do here. Folks, I wanted to show you this 3 hours and 36 minutes in, and I am at 153 degrees. Wow, that's amazing. I gotta say that if I was doing this at 225, I would think that I would probably be pretty close to 8 hours by now. I really, 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 like really hope that this meat turns out good, because damn, what a time saver. Okay, 4 hours in. My temperatures are low right now, but they're recovering because I just had the door open to take a look. Here's what's going on. I was thinking, you know, I had that meat side down, and the fat side originally got pretty crispy pretty quick, and I was kind of concerned because, you know, as the meat temperature approaches the smoke chamber temperature, you know, the gains you get slow down. And I was concerned that, you know, the longer it has to sit there before I wrap it, that the meat side that doesn't have any fat cap on it would get burnt. But I went in to flip it, put it back fat side down. I don't want to show it to you right now because I'm just getting my temperatures back, but it looked pretty good. It didn't really look burnt. It didn't really look super barky. It's brown, but it's not black. It's not, there's no burnt pieces on it. So I'm just going to leave it alone. But I want to let you know, at 4 hours, people, 4 hours, 161.1 degrees internal. So this is, if there's going to be a stall, it's going to happen sometime in the next 10 degrees. And one of the things I noticed, the meat is still very stiff, obviously, because the temperature is not even approaching 200 degrees right now. But it's looking good. And we're at 161 degrees in 4 hours. Wow. Man, I really, really hope this comes out good. So one thing I did notice is that the meat is like a giant ball right now. So the skinny end kind of squinched in, and the big end kind of squinched in, and it's very tall in the middle and not very long like it was before. So the meat is definitely, you know, cringing in. And again, you know, you get to a point where the meat fibers are squeezing and the water is evaporating out of it, and that's generally where you get a stall. This is where it usually happens, 160 to 170. That's usually we're gonna see. We're gonna see if this higher temperature just pushes it right on through. And I'm not gonna wrap it yet. Frankly, it doesn't look bad. And I would like a little more bark. I like a lot of bark on it. I don't want to burn it, but it's not anywhere near burnt. Um, so I'm going to let it swing. I'm going to let it swing. I'm going to have to add more water though. I noticed that I've got about an inch and a half left in the pan. I hate doing that because that's where I'm having all my trouble. So I want to make sure that before I do that, like right, I'm at 298 degrees right now and 161 and a half internal on the meat. I really want that temperature right up around 320, 325, somewhere as high as I can get it before I stick that hose in there and add another few quarts or a gallon of water. That's gonna settle everything down, and I really hope I don't spill it again this time and get it all over the heat plate. We'll see what happens. Folks, we're approaching 4.5 hours. We're not quite there yet. It's about 3:26 or 4:26. Sorry, 4 hours 26 minutes. Temperatures are good. I'm at 166 and a half. So in the last, I don't know, hour, I've gained like 10 degrees. And in the last, I don't know, 25, half an hour, I've gained like 4, 5 degrees. So we're getting through that point where, you know, I get to, when I see 172, 175, I'm going to say that a stall didn't happen. I'm not going to jinx myself by saying that it won't, but I just want to say that that's where we're at right now, and we're just touching 4.5 hours. Now, I don't know what this brisket weighed when I put it in there. I did trim a lot off. I took a piece of flat off of it and a bunch of fat, so I'm going to say it was probably 11, maybe 12 pounds. But, I don't know. Really hoping it turns out good. It's a $100 experiment, people. So even with all my discounts and everything, probably about $100. I think the guy, I want to say that this one, I keep forgetting because it's been a while since I bought this. It's been in the freezer. He was up at one point around $10.50 an hour. I think when I bought this, he was at, I'm sorry, per pound, about $8.50, maybe $9 a pound, somewhere in that range. And $8.50. I believe he gave me a discount because I bought the whole packer brisket and didn't get it trimmed. So his price for that would have been if I'd had him trim it. And he does a beautiful job. He's a butcher. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's also a barbecue guy, so he knows what I want. Does a wonderful job. I need to practice, and I don't do a beautiful job like he does. So I just said, nope, give me the whole thing. Just pack it up. So he always tells the girl behind the counter helping us out, take off $1 a pound, take off $2 a pound. I think it was $1 a pound. So if we're starting at 8.5, now we're down to 7.5. And then this is something that we bought a whole bunch of meat, and when you get over a certain price, he gives you a percentage off. And I don't remember if it was like 10 or 15% off of that. But I want to say that our whole meat order was probably $250, maybe more. I don't know. But there was another discount that took place. So I really have no idea what this piece of meat cost me. And then on top of that, you know, you really have to consider that you've trimmed it, so you've thrown away several pounds at however many dollars a pound. So say at the end of everything, we're talking $6.50, $6.75 a pound, something like that. Say $7 a pound, just to make math easy. If it was 14 pounds, it would be $98 at $7 a pound. If I threw away 3 pounds, I threw away $21 worth of meat and fat. I didn't really throw it away though, because I made pot roast out of the piece of flat that I took, and I saved all the other trimmings. Um, it goes in the freezer. When I collect enough, what I do is I render it down. I make tallow, and I use the tallow for deep frying. So it's not it's not a total waste. But this is not like buying chuck, where you take a chuck roast that the butcher gives you, and it's beautiful, and you just put it on the smoker as is. Not like that. And his prices for chuck roast, prime chuck roast, and his beef ribs, his prime short ribs, rib racks, you know, the whole 4-bone rib racks for short ribs, are all about the same as the brisket, give or take. Um, so brisket isn't my favorite because there's a lot of waste and it ends up being more expensive. Um, but like I said, though, if this does turn out good, I do like brisket. I primarily like the point. I'm not a fan of the flat. Um, Even when it's cooked well, I don't like it as much. I don't think it's as flavorful, and I just like the texture of that stringier meat with the more intramuscular fat in it. I just dig that more, and this had an enormous point. So a good, I would say probably half of what I'm cooking right now is or more maybe is point. Um, but again, brisket is not economical, and for my taste, I love chuck. Chuck when it's got the uh, when it's cooked right has a really good texture to it, and I really enjoy the whole thing. There isn't really any part of it that I don't like. Um, so for my money, I got to go with chuck roast number one, probably beef ribs, short ribs number two, and brisket falls at the bottom of all three beef cuts for me. Um, but again, this is just an experiment. This is anything else. It's just let's see how good we can make it turn out, and we'll see what we end up with. Hopefully, something delicious, delectable, tender, juicy, and you know, just to be able to say that I did it and I made it come out good and I did it this way, this hot and fast method, you know, there's something to that. So again, this is all experimentation, people. This is the whole point of Smokers Chugging. I am not an expert. I'm not Harry Sue. I'm definitely not Myron Mixon. I am not telling you this is how you need to do it. I'm just a guy who watches those people on YouTube, has a smoker and really tries to do the best I can. And I know that more of you out there watching this are more like me than you are like them. So this is just kind of encouragement from somebody in the trenches, somebody who doesn't have his game dialed in, does not make a living at this. I work for Public Works and I drive a tractor. I love my job. It's fun. We do a lot of good stuff. We snow plow. We, you know, vacuum up leaves all over town. We do a variety of different things. We maintain all of our parks, our open spaces, our retention basins. So there's a lot of good stuff at work. But this is not my vocation. This is my avocation, and I'm here to encourage you guys to try out the exact same stuff that I'm doing. And this is just my experience with it. And I hope that it encourages you. I hope that it helps you. I hope that you see what I'm doing and you do your thing. Give it a shot. See what it's about. And that's why there's such a variety of videos on my channel. It's just me trying all this stuff that I see really accomplished, skilled people doing on YouTube. And I got to tell you, there's so many good providers, content providers out there. Get out there and look. But please give me a like. Give me a little ringy dingy bell up there. Get the notifications when new videos come out. Like me on Facebook at Smokers Chugging. That's another way of getting these YouTube videos. But let's get back to work here, and hopefully we can make this prime brisket come out good, hot and fast, and we'll continue on. 4 hours and 47 minutes, and I am at 172 degrees, so I'm going to say there was no stall on this. I got about 30 degrees left to go before I start probing it for tenderness. I hope it gets tender. The thing that worries me is that it won't get tender. and that's what makes me anxious. So I got my instant read here to use as a probe and also to check the temperature in different parts of it. But since I got my temperatures up pretty solid, I just opened it to add water. But I want to show you what this bad boy is looking like right now. 4 hours, 47 minutes, 172 degrees. Look how pretty. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, folks, so I got the camera on a tripod so I can use both my hands. This piece of meat smells fantastic. We're gonna do a wrap right now. I got up to about 174 degrees, and I figured I gotta wrap this bad boy. It's got about all the bark I want on it. I'm gonna give it one last little spritz, and I'm gonna try to remember this is the fat side. Oh, I'm running out of spritz. So maybe this vinegar will give her a little, anything that may be a little hard, it'll soften it up. I think what it does is it tends to stop the browning process. The paper will do that. The paper is going to stop the browning process. It's also going to mean that I don't really need to pay attention much to how clean my fire is, but I got to maintain my temperatures. And as you can see, we got the battle that everybody has with the wind. And I hope I spread the paper out wide enough. So I'm going to try to wrap it as tight as I can. I'm not an expert at this. I have my paper dispenser here holding everything down in the wind. Oh, that's hot. So yeah, I'm at 174 internal here, and I want to wrap it. I got about all the bark I need or want, and I just want to make sure that right now I'm all about keeping that moisture inside of it. Look at that beautiful grease. And I hope I didn't put too much paper on here. I try to tamp it down a little bit, so fat side. It's gonna end up fat side down. Well, we're gonna put it in fat side down. Okay, so last time I put it in fat side down, I ended up with all that bark I had built up on the fatty side kind of got gummy. And I think all I need to remember is that when I take it out to rest, I got to flip it over and put the meat side down, and that the bark should maintain itself pretty good. I don't think there's any harm in leaving the fat side down. I was thinking earlier I might flip it back to fat side down. I really didn't get a look at what the underneath side of it looked like, but I'm not too worried about it. And now that it's wrapped, I'm really not worried about it. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick the temperature probe back in the meat and get my temperatures in the smoker back up, and we're good to go. All right, folks, we had a 6 hour and 45 minute smoke, and we ended up with this beautiful greasy paper. This is one of my favorite sights in the whole entire world. Look at that. Wow. So I'm at the Karen's residence today. And the entire family is here. Well, not the entire family, but two of the Chillins are here with the Karen's family. And ooh, look at this. I don't think it's going to be as tender as I had hoped. But this is still hot, so that's good. I need to take the... Ooh. I need to get this away. Okay, folks, we're gonna move this a little, backwards so you can get it in frame. So this is how my brisket came out. Not too bad. So we're gonna slice into the flat here real quick. So we're gonna take a little slice here at the. It feels a little tough. I was poking it probing it for tenderness with the instant read thermometer, and it felt very tender, and I didn't pay attention to what my internal temperatures were, but with the big thermometer I was getting about 204, 205, and we're going to slice it about a 1/4 inch thick on the flat here, and we're going to do a couple of the tests. So we have the bend test, which it passes, and we have the dangle test, which it passes, and the pull test. So this is actually pretty tender. Tastes pretty good. What do you think? Oh, it's actually moist. This is a flat that I genuinely love. So watch this. So if you shake the brisket, it has jiggle. It's got the jiggle. So I said the last time I did a prime brisket, it took me, I don't know, 16 hours. I ended up letting it rest in the oven overnight because I just ran out of time. It was like 11:30 at night. Didn't want to eat meat like this at 11:30 at night. So this time I want to do hot and fast. So 6 hours and, I don't know, 15 minutes, 6 hours and 45 minutes. I forget what the exact time was. Then it rested for about 2.5, 2 3/4 hours. And let me tell you, having a brisket cooked, rested, and ready to eat all in the same day, and I'm not even tired yet. What time is it?
7.
It's only 7 o'clock at night. So in less than 11 hours, I went from raw meat at 40 degrees to cooked meat ready to eat. Yay. Hot and fast it is from now on, folks. This is fantastic. And even the flat tastes good. It's tender and it's moist. I can't wait to get into this point. I'll share some still photos at the end of this. Smokers chugging, baby. Be good to each other. Have a great time. God bless. Stay safe. Smokers chugging.
I should have
Look how moist this meat is. It's so beautiful. This is the point here. I separated it from the flat, and I'm going to slice them up separately. But man, this stuff is fantastic.